What's up, everyone? Aaron Nagler here, PackersNews.com, live on Facebook late in the day on Wednesday. Pretty quiet on the Packers front, but we are just over a week away from the NFL draft. The Packers continuing on in their offseason program, day 2. They're at 1265 Lombardi. Thought I'd jump on here and see what's on your minds, see what's on the minds of Packers fans everywhere. James chiming in with the first hello. Hello, James. Jerry, hello. Mario, thank you for coming. Mike, what's up? What's going on in North Hudson? So, yeah, like I said, not a whole heck of a lot. Make sure you're checking PackersNews.com for all of the latest content around the team. Tom Silverstein is dropping his overview of the tight end position, along with a sneak peek at who the Packers could be looking at in the draft. Make sure you find that, read it, watch the videos, all sorts of great stuff there at Packers News for you. Is Rodgers frustrated with Favre? That's a new one. Do you think Roquan Smith is in play for the Packers? Whew, Ben, if he makes it that far, I think he's definitely a possibility. I think he would be a major asset to their defense. But I know it sounds like I say this about a lot of guys, but I'd be surprised if he's there at 14. I think he gets snatched up. But you never know really how it's going to play out. It's a possibility. If he's there when they're on the clock, I think they got to give him serious consideration. What's up, Australia? Checking in. How are you? What do you think of using extra picks and moving up into the top 10 of the draft? I think it's fine as long as you have a strong conviction about someone. If Brian Gutekunst thinks there's a generational talent there that is falling to the 8, 9, 10 range and he just has to go up and get him, go up and get him. Go get your guy. Especially, considering Washington's sitting there at 13 right in front of the Packers, and they have a lot of similar needs. If you think there's a guy that is going to transform your defense and you want to be sure you get him and you want to be sure Washington doesn't take him right before you do, yeah, they've got the capital. I mean, they've got the draft picks. They have the ability to go do it. So, yeah, of course, it all depends on Gutekunst and his conviction about said player. And only Brian Gutekunst can tell us that. Oh, Kirk, thanks a lot, man. That's very nice of you to say. Do we have a new strength and conditioning crew? Preston, they do not. Actually, that's kind of the one area that wasn't touched this offseason. Actually, Mike McCarthy and Brian Gutekunst talked to us about that for a good long while, actually, when we were in Indianapolis for the Combine. You can find Tom Silverstein's piece on it at Packers News. Best probably just to Google Tom's name and strength and conditioning. It should be the first link that comes up. To give you the 30-second version, they both pointed to the fact that with strength and conditioning, while fans and the media, we're not immune from this, are quick to kind of point fingers there, especially when the Packers have a bad run of injuries. So much goes into a guy getting injured and or the types of injuries, how much playing time they've had, what they've done away from the facility in the off season. There's a lot going on that the strength and conditioning staff doesn't have control of. Now that said, they haven't exactly stood pat every offseason. They've changed a lot. They've changed their way of working. They've changed nutrition. They've brought in a nutritionist. They've switched up practice schedules. They've tried to give the guys more rest and recovery time. So, McCarthy's been pretty forward-thinking in that regard. He has just stuck with Mark Levat and his staff. And it's hard for me to take them to task for that because I think it's sound logic. There is a whole lot that goes into guys getting injured. Obviously there's always kind of a injury du jour every year. It's when it becomes like hamstrings, soft tissue stuff, then I think that's when they kind of drill down and try and find out if there is a common element in the building. But, I thought Brady Papinga put it really well on the radio. I think it was earlier this year. These guys have a lot more time away from the watchful eye of their clubs now. So a lot of it is down to what guys are doing away from the facility. Brock says, get Dez and let's win a bowl. Well, Brock, I think you can't dismiss it because he's still sitting out there. I'll be surprised if he ends up in Green Bay, just because I think there will be a team or two out there that will offer him more than the Packers are willing to give him, but we'll see. Any clue who we will open the season against? Ben, I have no clue. I'm going to guess the 49ers, though. Keith, hello. Any chance the Packers land Tremaine Edmonds? Well, I know they had him in for a visit a couple weeks ago. You know, I think he and Roquan Smith are going to be hard-pressed to land at 14, but if he's there when they're on the clock, they have to think about him. I think he's, you know, the perfect example of the kind of guy we've talked about over the last year, 2 years, I mean, seemingly forever when it came to the Green Bay Packers defense. You know, a guy who could be a true disruptor, a guy who could be, you know, would need to be accounted for down in and down out, especially as he matures. I mean, the kid's only 19 years old. But he is a athletic freak and a guy who can fly sideline to sideline in a way, you know, Blake Martinez obviously had a good year last year. He was very productive, but Edmonds' athleticism is on a whole nother level, and he could cause real problems for offenses. Did Jimmy Graham really take less money to play for Green Bay? Meg, that is an excellent question. I got a lot of unreturned phone calls out on that one, because the reporting that I saw leading up to Jimmy signing was that it was down. He did take, I don't know about even meetings, but I know he had calls with a number of different teams. But I know in the reporting leading up to his signing, and we, you know, kind of backed this up, it was down to New Orleans and Green Bay. So is he saying that, you know, he took less money than New Orleans was offering? And does he think then, you know, by his own words, that he has a better shot of getting to the Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers than Drew Brees and the Saints, who just got, you know, the Offensive Rookie of the Year last year and the Defensive Rookie of the Year? I don't know. There's a lot to unpack there. But Meg, I'm with you. My eyebrow went up when he said that. Who is the backup center? Oh, Felipe, I can't remember his name. They got him from Denver late last year. It's funny you asked that, because I literally just looked at the roster yesterday, and I noted that Gross, I think is the last name, Gross. I can't remember his first name, but he's a guy they picked up from Denver. Like I said, late in the year. I think they signed him off Denver's practice squad. But right now, he's your backup. Are they going to do anything to help the O-line? Exclamation point, question mark, exclamation point. Well, the draft's next week, so I would stay tuned. So I tend to think that's when they'll do something. Any chance Rodgers doesn't re-sign? Nick, well, there really doesn't... It's not a question of him re-signing, really. He's under contract for 2 more years. And if he doesn't re-sign after those 2 years are up, the Packers can still use the franchise tag on him for at least 2 years. So he's basically under the Packers' control for 4 more years. He's not going anywhere. Are you buying into this Rodgers drama? Asked Justin. I mean, I don't know how much drama there is. I think he's frustrated. He can't say so publicly. And that's where we're at. You know, I think he did a really good job in front of the microphones yesterday, talking about he knows his role, etc. But I don't doubt for a second that Charles Robinson, you know, I don't think he was making things up. The Yahoo report yesterday. So, it comes down to, I'm with Tom Silverstein, who wrote his column last week saying, no one would begrudge Rodgers if he just came out and said these things. But I think it would probably make things a little uncomfortable around 1265 Lombardi, which is why he doesn't. No to Ridley. Jim, it's funny, I've got a distinct kind of separation of camps here, at least in my Twitter mentions, where I see people who really want Ridley, and I see people who... I had one guy who tweeted out yesterday in my mentions yesterday saying, I don't remember exactly, but it was something expletive I would bleep and give up if they took an offensive player in the first round. It's, I get they need help on defense, but they've taken a defensive player in the first round for like the last 9 years. I think they're tied with the Jets for the most consecutive years using a draft, your first round draft selection on a defensive prospect, and that hasn't exactly turned around the defense. So I get it. I get that they need defensive help, but if they have a higher grade on an offensive player and they take him, you got to let it play out, man. Let's see. What do you grade our linebackers? Woo, well, that's a big question. If you're talking just off ball or you're talking edge as well, I'd probably go C+, push him B-. Really depends on how some of those young guys develop. Change is good. Yeah, I give you that. Is BJ Raji still playing football, or is he done? James, I don't know, but he's mentioned in this chat each and every day. So if you need some BJ Raji in your life, this is the place to be. Now that the Lions have signed Pringle, is it all lost now? I don't know, but I hope he can stack success. Dad joke. Could Hundley be the backup if he beats Kaiser? He could be, but I don't think he's going to beat Kaiser. That's my guess. I also think there's a chance that they move Hundley during the draft, but that's entirely guesswork on my part. What would it take for the Packers to move up for Ward or Chubb? Good question. Really depends on who the dance partner is, I think. I mean, obviously they'll look at the draft trade chart. I think a third and another selection could probably get it done. Maybe the second if they really are desperate, but that seems awfully rich. Ward or James, asks Victor with exclamation points and question marks. Yeah, good question. For me, I'd say Ward. If I'm the Packers, I would prefer him just because they need a boundary corner, and I think he would do the job. But I think James's versatility is something that would, most likely enamor them. I could see them coveting him over Ward, but I'm just guessing here. What if we made a trade with the Patriots and we trade down and get both of their first-round picks, and then your thing cuts off because it was a very long question? You can't discount anything at this point because, there are definitely, the rumor mill is pumping out lots of smoke at the moment regarding the Patriots wanting a quarterback. Obviously, Tom Brady, the news this morning that Brady has not committed to playing in 2018. I think most people suspect he will play, but they're obviously going to need a long-term solution once Brady is gone. It sure sounds like they're in the market for a quarterback. And 14, got to think that's a possibility if someone was sliding. But you have to think the Patriots are looking to get up a little further than that if they want to grab a quarterback. So, it's a possibility, but I'd be surprised. Richard, I agree. 12 draft picks, you see trades in their future. I completely agree. I think you're going to see a lot of trading. Felipe says, I wouldn't address the wide receiver position until the third round. Well, I get that sentiment, but it's kind of silly to box yourself in like that. If there's an incredible value sitting there in the second round, you're not going to say, oh, well, I can't do that. I told myself I was only going to do it until the third round. It's about the players, about what they can do, about what they bring to your program. It's not about rigidity of your draft rules. I like Davenport at 14, says Jim. People are all over the map on the kid. I've seen people who like him as a top 10 prospect. I've seen people who think he doesn't go until the second round. The athletic upside is something you can't ignore. I've had trouble kind of watching his tape and thinking that he could help the Packers immediately. However, it is about long term. It is about trying to project what a player will do down the line, and Davenport's ceiling is incredibly high. So is it a possibility at 14? It'd be foolish to dismiss it. Okay, you're lambasting the BJ Raji ongoing bit was too long, so I couldn't read it. If you're gonna insult the BJ Raji ongoing joke, you got to be more succinct, and it's never gonna end. It's Facebook Live, dude. I've been doing it every single day for what feels like a decade. And it's not gonna stop. It's like the Packers suddenly putting a dome on the stadium. It's never gonna happen. BJ Raji will be mentioned every single day. Do you think Kaiser could be trade bait? I had someone posit that theory about a month ago. If the Packers had got Kaiser with the intention of trading, packaging him and trading him. I mean, can't take anything off the table, right? I tend to think they traded for him because they liked him in last year's draft. They want to develop him. But man, never say never. I think Cobb can still be productive at wide receiver. Kyle, I very much agree. I think he will be productive at wide receiver in 2018. Jordan, well done, except you spelled Raji wrong. So, sorry, man. No one puts BJ in a corner. Well done, Wade. Now it's all BJ Raji questions. I love this chat. It's so great. Kaiser better than Hundley. Dennis, I completely agree. Ryan, beer of choice. Tonight it's Brooklyn Breweries. Oh, no. Bronx Breweries Pale Ale. Is there any trade interest for Hundley? Justin, not that I've heard, but, you know, I hadn't heard anything leading up to last year's draft, and they did get an offer. Now, obviously, teams have a lot more tape to look at this year, but you can't completely write it off just because teams are desperate for quarterback help each and every year. All right, now we've got all Hundley and BJ Raji questions, so I'm going to jump. But thanks a lot, everyone. I'm sorry if I couldn't get your question. Make sure you're checking PackersNews.com for all the latest. Tons of great content, both about the draft and about the off-season program starting up. And the opening of the 1919 exhibit in Green Bay at Lambeau. It sounds amazing. It's going to be the first thing I check out when I get to town next week. So Rich Ryman has a great story on that. So make sure you check that out. Everything else, PackersNews.com. You guys have a great night. Talk to you tomorrow.